Is everybody alive tonight? The geopolitical ramifications of the 2024 election. Christians need to be engaged in the 2024 election. So let me give you the facts on that. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 90 million evangelicals in the United States of America. 40 million of the 90 million don't vote. And another 15 million of the 90 million aren't even registered to vote. That's 55 million that would change the outcome. You say, but I don't like the way that one candidate talks. Get over it. The freedoms we enjoy in our country and that we love, they are in jeopardy. Christians need to seek the Lord in prayer and simply vote for whatever candidate would be a little better than the other candidate concerning being closer to biblical values. And I've listed the biblical values that I think are worthwhile. If our voices are not heard, our votes are not counted, and every evil demonic philosophy will continue to fill the vacuum in our place in America. Don't sit out and say, I don't like the way that guy talks. Understand that voting is not just a right, but a Christian duty. Jesus went away and he gave some of his, he gives a parable and he says, a rich guy gave his assets to two guys. And he says to the two guys, when I come home, make some profit with what you've got and represent me well. You and I are living in God's world. You're supposed to be doing everything you can in your power to make a little bit of a difference. And voting is just simply one thing that we're allowed to do. We're not voting for a personality. We're voting for a government that either wants to kill babies all the way to the point that they're born or not. God uses flawed people. You know how I know that? I'm positive that God uses flawed people. Nothing I would know more than that. I'm about to go into a deeper thing here, so hang on, but let me just quickly mention what's on your notes there. Vote policies, and here they are. Who would be better on judges? Who would be better on border security? Who would be better about Israel? Religious liberty, biological sex, the family, and life. Let's suppose in the next 4 years, Israel's going to be forced to divide the land for a Palestinian state, give up East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine, and we're going to head into the tribulation period. In other words, the hour is later than we think, and the coming administration will have to oversee a post-rapture America and the start of the tribulation. Who would God want in the White House, which has the most impact over Israel than anyone on earth? Who would God want in the White House in a post-rapture America leading the world into the tribulation period? What would Kamala's America look like? What would Trump's America look like? Here we go. Under Harris, my assumption is that the country will end up being so far gone that conservatives and Christians will actually lose their ability to make a difference anymore. It's more than possible. we almost are losing our ability for free speech, our ability to make a difference now. You got to be asleep if you haven't figured that out. The America that we all want isn't there any longer. Because under a Harris administration, we will simply fall too deeply under the influence of Satan's forces to take away your voice. If you're a Christian and if you're biblical, they don't want you to have a voice. They already have announced they want to take away your guns. They want to take away your money. They want to take away our borders. And they want all of us to be able to not to be able to legally or politically fight back. Let's assume Trump gets more votes than Harris. I'm not sure he'll win. But for sure, if Harris is in for another 4 years on top of the Biden administration's 4 years, or she'll be in for another 8 years, we're not going to be able to do anything. In the past, it didn't matter too much if a semi-liberal Democrat got voted in because we'd get another chance, like when Carter came in. Or like when Clinton came in, we always would get another vote and get out of it. Or even when Obama came in, we thought, well, at least get rid of him and we'll get another. But in this time, it might be too late for that. That's why we need to vote. You may not have another free opportunity to make a difference. I'm afraid that not many Christians, or that many Christians are too naive to believe what I just said. I'm convinced most Christians don't know what I just said. And that's a shame. Because most people today have never seen real evil people. Most people haven't grown up in Cuba. They haven't grown up under the Soviet Union. They haven't grown up to see people that hate Bible believers, people that hate the church. And most Americans are good folks, and they're really not capable to even grasp what we're dealing with. But it's obvious how bad it is from the last 4 years and more than that. I think we're up against a diabolical... How in the world did Harris, without one electoral vote, get vaunted to the top of the most powerful nation in the world with 90 million evangelical Christians? What is the answer? How did that happen? Welcome to the end times and Satan's control over America. We are under the curse. We're no longer under the blessings, because we've turned our back on Israel. And if you think we're still under the blessings, just look at Joe Biden. We're under the curse of God. Can it change? Anything can change. But it's very late in the timeline. The world is pressuring Israel to divide the land. Sin and immorality is running rampant. So when it comes to Israel, Scamala is Satan's choice to be able to really... Listen to this. She is likely Satan's choice to catapult the enemy's plans. That's where it's come from. If you're offended by what I'm saying, I really do love you. I didn't say that. It's probable that Harris won't walk the line as the previous presidents, but will begin to openly oppose Israel. And it would take, if Netanyahu's gone and the liberal Israeli prime minister comes in and Harris is in, Israel's going to have to give up the land fast. She'll be like just another member of the squad. She'll support the UN. She'll support a UN arms embargo for Israel. She's already said that. And she'll pack her administration with anti-Semites like Tim Walz. And she'll likely appoint a radical Muslim like Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, as her Attorney General. You're familiar with Keith Ellison. We talked about him years ago. Wouldn't that be sweet? Wouldn't that be sweet to have a Harris presidency with a radical Muslim as the Attorney General? How did this happen? Yeah, what could go wrong with that? Wait a minute, I forgot my Trump hat. Hey, where'd my Trump hat go? Some thief stole it. I actually had one. No good if you're out there. So the question is God going to let Satan have his choice? Or does the Lord want President Trump? Be careful. Or does the Lord want President Trump to divide Israel's land and create a Palestinian state? Because somebody's going to do it soon. Either one, Scripture is clear, we're heading into that territory fast. Now, I want to remind you, most evangelicals have forgotten that Donald Trump worked tirelessly until the last day of his administration on what he called the deal of the century. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for Trump in 20, and I'm voting for Trump in 2024. And I pray that he becomes the president, but I want to be real about what we're up against here as a prophecy teacher. I've always believed that Trump's deal of the century was why he wasn't reelected. He was to finally roll, it was a masterpiece. Do you remember? They worked tirelessly. They were building ports, they were building banking systems, new educational systems, new highways. All the Arab countries were going to fund it. Palestine did this, then the Jews would do this, and it was massive. I have it. Like 150 pages. This category, and this category, and this category. And 1 week before that was to be presented, and they were going to divide the land, and it was a shoo-in for Trump to be reelected. 1 week in January 2020, it was to be brought forth and put into play. 1 week, COVID hit. 1 week from dividing the land under Donald Trump in that everybody wanted the plan to work. Never heard about the plan again, and Trump didn't have a prayer because God doesn't want the person in the White House to force Israel to divide their land. God does not want an Arab country in the middle of the promised land. And God does not allow any leader and won't bless any leader that says Israel's land belongs to an Allah-worshiping radical bunch of Muslims. So was it COVID that cost Trump the election? Or was it God's anger over the president's decision to divide the land of Israel? Before you answer that, remember there's a long track record of presidents that put pressure on Israel to divide the land, causing hurricanes and causing disasters. I actually think that was the reason why Biden's ship sunk so fast. Because you may not remember this or not, but at the beginning of this year, Joe Biden was pushing the two-state plan like it was the best thing since sliced bread. You remember that? Israel had to have a Palestinian state, and the more he pushed, the worse he got. The more senile he got. I mean, are these just Coincidences? To the point where he was so hot to trot on the two-state plan, he's disappeared. There is some sort of an atmospheric reaction God himself has when presidents demand little Israel give up the promised land. Now, Trump would be great for America, don't get me wrong. He'd be great for the economy. He'd be great for oil. He'd be great for gas. But I don't know how much time we have. And remember, one of the signs of the world in the tribulation is a financial collapse. Boy, Trump would be a good friend of Israel, though. And he would finish off Hamas and Hezbollah. Wouldn't that be wonderful? He'd tie the hands of Iran, slap some stiff sanctions on them, and maybe let a missile go their way once in a while. Settle them down a little bit. He would protect our borders. He would jumpstart our economy, and our small businesses would start to roar. But he would also be the best art of the deal maker for a Palestinian state. Since we don't know whether we have 4 years or 8 years or what we have, I believe either way, either president, God can fit the schedule, the sovereign schedule for Israel to be divided and for Israel to bring in, and for that dividing to bring into the tribulation period. It's likely that the near future Middle East is going to be different than anything we've ever seen. If Hamas is gone, if Hezbollah threat is gone, if all the people in Israel move back, if the terrorism within the West Bank gets settled down, if Iran is somehow settled down, Israel is going to be defeated, all of their enemies. Israel will be in a very superior place in Israel. And Israel itself will be in a place that they likely could be convinced that they could then, if they had somebody strong enough in the White House to back them, that if they could divide the land, and actually it would work. I don't have any question that within the next 2, 3, 4 years, we could be in the tribulation period, which means, by the way, in less than 10 years, we could be in the millennial kingdom. We're going to go up for 7 years, come back with Christ, and we're going to be ruling and reigning with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The other option in all of this is that Trump only has 4 years. It's hard to believe that God would rescue Donald Trump from two assassinations. I know this is... But he only has 4 years. If God chooses him to come in that 4 years, things are going to move quick also. Ladies and gentlemen, are you registered to vote? How many of you think Harris is going to win the election? I didn't ask you who you wanted to win the election. How many of you think there could be some cheating involved? How many of you think, let's take a little poll. Not who you want as president. How many of you think Trump is going to win? Just raise your hand up. I'm not going to vote. How many of you think Harris is going to win? Put your hands up. So I'd say maybe 40% Harris, 60% Trump. That's probably pretty fair vote. Praise God. How many of you are glad God's sovereignty is my sanity? Yeah. Takes wisdom and discernment, but get out and vote biblical reasons. Thank you for coming to class tonight, ladies and gentlemen.